You stand up with a clear, specific mission. You are going to the kitchen to get the thing. You walk in, and the second you cross that doorway, it is gone. Total blank. You stand there staring at the fridge with no idea on earth why you came. And then you walk back to where you started and boom, it snaps right back. Everyone does this constantly. So what is actually happening in that moment? And why does simply walking into a room delete the thought right out of your head? Because it is not your memory failing. And it is definitely not you getting old. It is one of the more genuinely clever things your brain does. And it even has a name. Let me explain. Let me start by taking away the thing you have quietly worried this means. When this happens, the story you tell yourself is not a kind one. My memory is going. I am so scatterbrained. I am getting old. You treat it like a small malfunction, a sign that something is slipping. And it is none of those things. This happens to sharp 20-year-olds and everyone else all the time. And it is not a bug in your memory at all. It is a completely normal side effect of the way your brain organizes your entire life. And the strange, specific trigger for it is the doorway itself. Scientists literally call it the doorway effect. And once you understand it, you will never take it as a sign of decline again. So here's the plan. I am going to show you 3 things in order. First, what actually happens the instant you cross a doorway. Second, why your brain does this on purpose and why it is a feature and not a flaw. And third, the surprising thing it reveals about how your memory really works. Let's start with the doorway. The first thing to understand is that your brain does not experience your life as one smooth, continuous stream. It chops it into events. Your brain is constantly quietly slicing your experience into separate chunks, little scenes with beginnings and endings, the way a movie is cut into shots, and it uses signals in the world to decide where one scene ends and the next begins. A change of location is one of the strongest of those signals. So when you walk through a doorway, your brain reads it as a hard cut, a clear announcement that the old scene is over and a brand new one has begun. And when a scene ends, your brain does some housekeeping. It files away the context of the room you just left and clears the desk to make room for the new one. The problem is that the little thought you were carrying, go get the thing, was sitting on that desk. So when the desk got wiped for the new scene, your thought got swept off with it. I have pulled off the truly elite version of this, walking into a room, forgetting why, walking back to remember, and then forgetting again on the way back, ending up stranded in the hallway between 2 rooms, having lost the thought in both directions, like some kind of memory ghost. It is genuinely humbling. But it is also, weirdly, your brain being good at its job, not bad at it. And researchers actually prove this is about the doorway, not the distance. In a series of clever studies, they had people carry an object and either walk the same distance across one large room or walk that same distance, but through a doorway into a new room. The people who passed through the doorway forgot significantly more. Same distance, same task, but crossing that threshold, that event boundary was enough to flush the memory. It was never about how far you walked or how long it took. It was about crossing the line your brain uses to say, new scene, reset. And that is exactly why walking back to the original room so reliably brings it back. You are returning to the scene where the thought was filed, rebuilding the old context, and the memory comes back with it. And here is a detail that shows just how general this really is. The doorway does not even have to be a real physical door. Your brain marks a scene change for mental doorways too. You open a new tab to look something up, and by the time it loads, you have completely forgotten what you were searching for. You switch topics mid-conversation, and the thing you meant to say a second ago just evaporates. Same effect, no door required. Any strong enough sense of, okay, new thing now can be enough to wipe the desk clean. The second thing is that your brain is not glitching when it does this. It is being ruthlessly, brilliantly efficient. Here is why this is a feature. The kind of memory that was holding your little errand is your working memory, the mental scratch pad where you keep whatever you are dealing with right now. And it is tiny. It can only hold a few things at once. And it is precious. If your brain never cleared it out, it would fill up instantly with the leftover clutter of every room you had ever been in, every abandoned thought, every finished task. So your brain does something smart. At every scene change, it wipes the scratch pad and starts fresh. So you can give full attention to the new situation instead of dragging the old one around. Imagine if it did not do this. Imagine walking into the kitchen, still fully loaded with every unfinished thought from the living room, the bedroom, the car, and the office, all of it stacked up and demanding your attention at once. You would not be able to think at all. The clean slate is not a loss. It is the only reason you can focus focus on anything. It also explains why this hits hardest when your mind is already juggling. If you stood up with a head full of other thoughts, the errand was only ever held by a thin thread to begin with, so the doorway barely has to tug for it to snap. The busier and more scattered you are, the more of these you will lose. Not because your memory is getting worse, but because there was less holding the thought in place when the scene changed. The doorway effect is not your memory being weak. It is your memory being disciplined, aggressively clearing out old context so it is ready for whatever is next. And this is genuinely why I make this channel. So a quick thing, if you like having the quiet logic behind your own quirks explained like this, take 1 second and subscribe, okay? Because this points to something bigger about how all of your memory works. The third thing, and the part that stays with you, is that your memory is far more tied to place and context than you ever realized. That thought you lost was not floating in your head on its own. It was anchored to a context. The room you were standing in when you had it, the situation, the surroundings. This is a general truth about memory. It is deeply, stubbornly context dependent. It is the reason information often comes back to you more easily in the same place you first learned it, and the reason a specific smell or song can drag up a whole memory attached to it. There's a famous study that shows just how strong this is. Researchers had deep sea divers learn lists of words either on dry land or underwater, and the divers remembered the words best in the same environment where they had first learned them. Words learned underwater came back more easily underwater. The context had been baked right into the memory itself. Your brain does the exact same thing with rooms, quietly stamping every memory with the place where it was made. So when you change the scene, you can accidentally lose the thread because the thread was tied to the room. And this event chopping goes way beyond doorways. Your brain marks a scene change at all sorts of boundaries. A shift in topic, a jump in time, walking outside, even a big change in what you are doing. Notice how you remember a long trip, not as one continuous smear, but as a series of distinct scenes. This place, then that one, then the next. Each one its own little chapter. That is your brain's event chopping on full display, quietly organizing your whole life into a sequence of chapters with clean edges between them. The doorway effect is just the moment you get to feel one of those edges cut in real time at the cost of a trip to the kitchen. It is actually a little beautiful once you see it. Your seemingly seamless, flowing day is underneath, quietly being edited into chapters by an invisible hand. This scene cut, next scene cut next. You never notice the cuts because the editing is so smooth. The forgotten errand is one of the only times the seam shows, a single frame where you catch your own brain mid-edit, deciding the last scene is over and clearing the stage for the next one. So let me pull this together. You learned that forgetting why you walked into a room is the doorway effect. And it happens because your brain slices your life into separate events, treats a doorway as a hard scene change, and flushes the old, including your thought, to make room for the new scene. You learned that this is not a weakness, but a feature. Your tiny, precious working memory being cleared on purpose so it does not clog up with the clutter of every room you have ever been in. And you learned that your memory is deeply tied to place and context, filed alongside the whole scene it happened in, which is exactly why returning to the original room brings the thought right back. And here's the part I really want you to keep. The next time you march into a room and stand there completely blank, please do not take it as a sign your mind is failing you. Take it as the opposite. It is a small, slightly annoying demonstration that your brain is doing its job beautifully, organizing the chaos of your experience into clean, manageable scenes so you can actually function. That blank moment is not decline. It is your mind keeping a tidy desk. And genuinely, it happens to everyone at every age, which is oddly comforting. It is one of the most common experiences a perfectly healthy brain produces. And if you want the thought back, you already know the trick. Go back through the doorway, return to the scene, and let the context hand it right back to you. And if you cannot be bothered to walk back, there are 2 cheap little tricks. Say the errand out loud to yourself as you go. Milk, milk, milk. So it is not relying on fragile working memory alone. Or picture the thing vividly before you even stand up. So it has more than one thin thread holding it in place. Give the thought a second anchor, and a single doorway cannot sweep it away nearly so easily. So tell me down in the comments, because I know this is universal. How often does this happen to you? And what is the most ridiculous version you have pulled off? The walking into a room, forgetting, going back, remembering, walking in again, and forgetting a second time loop. I want the truly cursed ones. Tell me below, along with how many round trips it took you to finally remember. And if you want another one of these little truths about the strange, efficient machine you live inside, go watch the one on why you can remember a face for decades, but forget a name in seconds. Because it is the same memory system playing by its own beautifully weird rules. I'll see you over there, assuming I remember why I came.